the older you become, the bigger the baggage, right? And so how I see it, and that when I stumbled upon feminine embodiment as a modality, what really resonated with me, and obviously I became a coach in it, is the idea that you are not broken and you do not need to go back 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years and fix everything that happened to you.
When I speak your name, when I move my body, oh, yeah, I'm claimed by you. When I speak your name.
So, in today's episode, I want to talk about the fact that you are not broken when you do personal growth work through the lens of personal growth. And so, what this really means is that what I see, for example, in the women that I work with, and women in general who come into this work or who are introspective and have done this work before, is that when we start digging and excavating what's underneath and what's blocking us and preventing us, in the case of my work, from attracting great men, from attracting great relationships and sustaining them, um, the biggest thing that I see is that women get stuck in this place, and they get stuck because they think that this is something so huge and so big that it will never end, and it will never be completely fixed. And so we fix and fix and fix, right? And so it's almost like there's always something to fix and it's a never ending journey. But I think there's a difference between having always something to fix and it's a never ending journey, and just realizing and embodying an understanding and a worldview, which people have told me that I have a really healthy one about that. And that worldview and a belief is that I am not broken and there's nothing to fix about me. I just need some tools that can help me overcome whatever I'm struggling with right now. So, one of the women in my program told me that, I have, and if you're listening to the podcast or watching this or working with me, you know my story, or maybe you don't. So, I'll tell you in a nutshell. My mother passed away when I was 8 years old. My dad remarried and had to my stepmother, who was a total evil woman. I was emotionally and physically abused and neglected and didn't trust the world and didn't have self-worth and all of that stuff. I was almost like a neurotic by the age of 17. My nervous system was completely broke down. And then, I started to travel the world and was attracting all these men, and it was just crazy. And I did a lot of personal growth and healing and all of that. And today I teach a personal growth program for women who want to attract great men, because that's what I've done through embodiment and through polarity and that whole embodied feminine polarity modality and the IP, that framework that I teach. And just recently, a month ago, my dad passed away as well. And so, you could look at my life and my life story and find so many traumatic moments, identify me or label me as an anxious attachment style, um, go around and like talk in therapy for thousands and thousands of hours about where is this coming from and the emotional abuse and that my dad and da 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 and what did he say and why and all of that stuff. And the older you become, the bigger the baggage, right? And so how I see it, and that when I stumbled upon feminine embodiment as a modality, what really resonated with me, and obviously I became a coach in it, is the idea that you are not broken and you do not need to go back 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years and fix everything that happened to you. Like, as a coach, as a feminine embodiment coach, when I'm doing my program and working with women, I'm not interested in the story of what happened to you and when, and let's go back to that and rewind that, simply because of the fact that, as you probably know or heard, or maybe not, memories are most of the time not true and not real. Like, there were studies where they were taking, two siblings, within the same family, and they had a completely different experience and a different memory. This is actually something that I experienced with my sister as our dad passed away and we were grieving. And my sister told me, and obviously there's a different difference in age, there, different experience. She her idea of my dad and the picture of that was completely different to mine. I was like, who is this person you're talking to? And so when we get stuck in our head, in our memories, and when we, try to fix it and understand, is this attachment style or that attachment style, or you got to fix that, this is what's wrong with you, and like, it never works. And in fact, well, sometimes it does work because you get clarity and understanding. But what I'm talking about is we need to let go of this idea that I got to really understand, why am I behaving this way? Why is this happening to me? Why did I do this? What is the theory behind this? And so what I see as the problem in the personal growth industry in general, problem, yeah, it is a problem because it doesn't work. Like, the clients who come into my program are the women who have done the therapy, who've read all the books and on attachment styles and sat in therapy sessions and talked about this. And here's how you should communicate, and here's what to say, and here's how to be feminine. And all of that is very, very cognitive. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it works, like, because you're aware of it. But the problem is that it's not sustainable. And when we do personal growth, you feel like it's never enough. Like, you always need a coach, you always need another program, you always need to be subscribed to all these people because you want to always fix yourself. And so that creates a really negative mindset, and that's not self-worth. Like, that's not sustainable in the long term, because you're perpetually feeling like you're broken and like there's something to fix about you, which I don't feel this way. And I think this is why a lot of women are attracted to the work that I'm doing, because through the modality of feminine embodiment, what I'm interested in is, how does that feel in your body? I was coaching a woman today, and she was saying that she's in a relationship and the guy's being pretty abusive, pretty manipulative. She knows it, but she's torn between, you know uh, eh, being with the guy, and because she loves him, and she knows that there's a lesson to learn here with him. Like, she knows in this relationship she needs to assert her boundaries, and that's why she's here, and it's been a pattern. But she's also feeling sick. Like, she literally told me, I feel sickened and like I want to throw up when he does that. And so it's really interesting, because in this particular situation, you could go to couples therapy, or I could see that she was so much in her head, trying to just understand and talk to him and talk to him and talk to herself and understand and figure it out. You can be here forever, right? Simply because, I don't know, like psychology and in general therapy and all of that, these are like ideas and theories that people have come up with based on certain, obviously, clinical studies and trials and stuff like that. But it's not science. Like, nobody knows what's going on in the brain and the memories. Like, all of us are figuring it out. And so this is why the modality of feminine embodiment is extremely helpful, and also just so gentle. And that's why it resonated with me, because once I work with a few limiting beliefs and I embody them and I release them in my body and I continue to practice, it's almost like I gave myself permission to be freaking imperfect, and uh, not wanting to constantly dig deep. Like, I don't use the word trauma. It's very popular today to say PTSD and micro traumas and big traumas, and like, trauma for me is like such a big word. And if you ask me, yeah, I was most probably traumatized when, I was 8 and I saw my mother in a coffin, for example, right? I was traumatized when at 17 I didn't have a place to live, and I was just left behind, and like, and then my dad. So it's like my family's fucked. And so I could sit there and look at myself as a woman with that story that defines me, but my story doesn't define me. And and I have this belief in me that, my story actually made me who I am, and the fact that I have lived through that and experienced that, it is what it is. And we all have our own stories. And so my message to you is that, just know that you're not broken. And if you feel like you're broken, guess what? Everybody else around you has their own story. Like all of us are dealing with stuff all the time. But I encourage you to not allow yourself to simply feel and be here, disconnect from the story of what this is about and why, because that's not real. It's just a story you're creating in your head. What needs to be done instead is you need to allow yourself to see, how does it feel right now, because you are dealing with this right now in this moment in time. And that can have nothing to do with where is this coming from and why, what does he say. Well, a lot of the times we're concerned about what does he say, or this box and a label on Instagram that puts me in this anxiety attachment that some psychologist came up with, and then there's a book, and then I need to like the work in the claim program, and in our coaching, for example, and why I continue talking about coaching, because this is the work that I'm doing with women. I'm not concerned with putting you in a box or giving you, here's an A to B and you just follow a 5-step process. It's not like that. Therefore, it's a group coaching program, because coaching is all about asking you questions and letting you come up with your own answers. And as a coach, I believe that you have your own answers. I can't tell you what to do. Like, it's not my responsibility, but I can guide you into the right direction. I always give this metaphor that, imagine we're in a really big house with 100 rooms and 100 doors. As a coach, I'm there to help you perhaps navigate the house and what door to open, to turn left or right here. But you are going to have to walk through that door, and you're going to have to open it and step into the room. And it is your choice. It is not my choice. And any coach that tells you you should exactly do, especially when it comes to personal growth, now business, career, this might be different, but anytime anyone tries to put us in a box that we need to check and fix and be in our heads about it, it doesn't work. It's the same parallel with men, right? Like, we can't control relationships. We can't control who we attract and how that relationship is going to develop, and who we're going to marry and how this is going to go. Life is unpredictable. And so the best thing we can do is to actually be in the moment right now, in the body. It's not even in the head. Meditation is a very masculine practice, and a lot of women really struggle with it. And what feminine embodiment is, if you can look at it that way, is really moving meditation, because when we move, we flow, and flow is a very feminine quality. And so, in my work, the framework is really embodied feminine polarity. What this means is that I provide you with the tools when we hold space for you, and you go through a specific journey in your own way, right? And when you get to, for example, to do some work, we have this famous module 2 that you can get stuck there forever. This module 2 work, for example, it's all about excavating what's really at the bottom of whatever you're struggling with, that has been the pattern perhaps for many, many years. So when we do this excavation and reframing of beliefs, we're not here to sit here for years. You can excavate forever. Like, there's no end to this. I can tell you right now that I thought that I've dealt with my mother's death. Like, I've worked so much on it for years and years and years. And guess what? It's showing up again. It showed up when I got pregnant with my first child, and when I gave birth, and I've like fixed that or worked through that, and it showed up again with my second child, but through a different perspective. And I'm sure it's going to show up again and again. So when we do module 2 work, let's say the deep excavation, the reframe, I really invite you to look at that and to witness that with curiosity. Like, you don't need to carry this, like slaves in the past had their legs chained and their arms chained to like a huge boulder, and they were dragging it. This is what happens when you approach it this way. I really invite you to approach this with curiosity. When you detach from the story of in your head and the drama and who said what and when, it's none of your concern. When you detach from that, you're liberated. And that's why I love feminine embodiment work, because I'm concerned with, what are you feeling right now? Where is that in the body? Can you breathe into that? Closing your eyes, can you breathe into that? Can you move into with that? And then can you welcome that in the body? That's it. And if you do that consistently, that's what I teach in my program. And if you're a client, you know that. If you do that consistently, then in time you will see that you will come to a point where you're just living. You're not in reactionary mode trying to think about it, understand, figure it out. What does this mean? You know, when I when I drop women into the body during our coaching calls, all of them go in to understand. Like, what does this mean? I feel this in my heart. What does this mean? What does this mean? What is the answer? Where am I going? Like, it's a complete reframe. And because we're doing this work, by the end of it, when you start to feel, when you start to be here and now, and you understand what this is all about, your life completely shifts and changes. Not only, I mean, it has to do everything to do with men, because a woman who is here now and in her body, not concerned where this is going, I need to control this. She just leans back naturally. That's why I love this work. And embodied feminine polarity is all about that. It's how can I embody my feminine essence? How can I embody myself as a woman who just wants to let go and surrender and feel safe and have fun? Because deep down inside, that's what we want. And so, if you want that, just know that the road to get there is not through like digging deep and understanding and oh my god. And it's almost like in module 2, the work that we do, you know, we talk about the payoff of why you are where you are, and you continue to believe what you believe. For example, I can't trust men. Men are assholes, right? There is a payoff of why you keep believing that and putting yourself into these situations. And the payoff is something that's of benefit to you because you keep believing that. So the benefit might be I get to be small, I get to be a victim, and I get to be a martyr. And so there's a lot of comfort in that. There's a lot of, and you got to be really honest. This is the work that we're doing, right? It's so vulnerable. But you got to be really honest with yourself, and you got to admit that, you know what? It actually feels good when I'm a victim. It actually feels good to hear time and time again from my girlfriend that say, you're so great. You're a full package. Why you're not attracting the man of your dreams?" And you're like, "Yeah, yeah," and we have a pity party together. Do you know what I mean? So that there's something about that that's keeping us safe. That's keeping us being small is very comfortable. And so that's why we keep believing it and keep doing what we're doing, because and when you realize that and shed light on that, you're like, oh my god, I'm doing this to myself, time to get out. And so you start to get out of this, but in an embodied way. You feel what we need to feel, you realize that, and then it's time to move on. So I really encourage you, whether you are in my program or not, to really look at this personal growth like a journey, like a quest, like something that you don't need to, like that's not attached to you and you're like dragging it around. That never ends, you know, like no, like who are you now? Well, what is the role that you're playing in the whole story in your mind, and who do you want to be instead, and how does that feel in your body? That's the most important thing. So show up and do the work in module 2 for 4 weeks minimum. You work on 2 or 3 limiting beliefs, you excavate that, you reframe that, and then you move on. Because guess what? You're going to come to this work again and again and again, and it's okay, because that's what life is about. And so for those of you who really want to start doing embodiment work, I have plenty and plenty of episodes where I explain feminine embodiment and actually share the practice that we're doing and all of that. And for those of you who are interested in working together, I invite you to obviously sign up for a discovery call. And for those of you who are wondering, what the hell am I wearing? And if you're listening to the podcast, you should go check out my YouTube video and subscribe to my channel, because right now I'm wearing like a top. And then on top of it, I have like a sweater, but it's not actually a sweater. It's like weird. And so this this is something that I learned. I'm passionate about makeup and fashion, and so I decided to bring my full self into these videos and actually be myself. And I think I'm going to end up every video with like, here's what I'm wearing, because I love it. And so today, like, I'm going to walk a bit back, and so this is this is actually a sweater that I just turned around. It had like a zip thing in the front, so I turned it around, put it on my shoulder, and yeah, I've seen I've seen this the stylers use this style, and I was like, well, it actually happened organically because I just took it off. I'm like cold and hot at the same time, so I don't want to wear the full thing, but so it's partly, and then I tied it up, and so yeah, this is my little fashion fashion tip and update. So this is the. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please let me know. Leave me a review on the podcast and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're a client. I will see you inside the program where we continue to do the work. Thank you.